started with the Civil Rights Subcommittee meeting, and although parties from the city declined to attend, it is a recorded meeting that you can also share with other legislators in the future, and just keep a record of it. And so it's just good to have meetings like this on record, no matter who attends or who refuses to attend, and it is all recorded. And I would like to go on record stating that I invited the Economic Development Department head, Tim Sheehan, and he declined for the second time a meeting that I requested having him at. And then I also wanted to mention that Jeff Daly, who is the head of Develop Springfield at this time, couldn't make it, but we did get a letter from him, just explaining, well, from his lawyer, explaining why he would not be in attendance, and kind of gave us a summary of their recollection of what happened. And so this particular incident with Develop Springfield Corporation came to light to me from Mr. Ramalino Brantley. And so I don't know how we want to get the details, so I'm just going to defer to the counselor. So we have a letter, and I could read through the letter in portions, and then have the owners respond to that portion of the letter. Welcome, Councilman Click Bruce and Councilor Zeta Govan and Councilor Catering Walsh and everyone else. So would that be beneficial, or would you guys, yes, Councilor?
Well, I think through the chair, it would be helpful to know not only the background, but what it is that you're hoping to accomplish through the meeting. Is it just information, or are you looking for something else?
Well, right now I'm looking for information. That's why I had invited all parties, just looking for information from what occurred from Develop Springfield's perspective, from Tim Sheehan's perspective, and from EBC owners' perspective, and just to get clarification on what's happening. So like I was saying, it was brought to me from Ramalina Brantley that some things with Develop Springfield were happening that he didn't think was fair. And just like based on the information that was given to me, I don't like to make kind of like decisions without hearing from all sides of the story. So that's why we invited Develop Springfield and Tim Sheehan from the Economic Development Office here, so we can hear and maybe try to work through a solution with all parties involved. But since Tim Sheehan always denies my request to join the meetings, he's not here, and Mr. Daly had another engagement to attend. So I think that the best plan of action is to read through some of the letter, and then we can pause, or we can hear from Ron and then read the letter.
I'd like to hear,
Ron, okay.
as long as they're here,
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
First, I want to thank you all. Thank you, Councilor Whitfield and the rest of the councilors, for allowing us this opportunity. This is not taken for granted, and we wanted to make it be known that our opinion and our voices really matter, especially when we're talking about community spaces and a community-based organization like EBC. But before I go into that, I really just wanted to introduce myself. And my name is Ron and Melina Brantley, and sitting beside me is my husband and co-founder, Kelvin Melina Brantley. We are.
Not know that.
Yes.
That makes a difference. We're gonna agree on everything.
We are a team. We're raised in the city of Springfield from the McKnight area as well as the North End. We were educated in the city, we live in the city, and we now raise our two beautiful boys in the city of Springfield. So when we're talking about the city and we're talking about community space, it's ingrained and rooted to who we are as men, as business owners and as employers overall. So we take that with a level of responsibility and a level of respect, not just for the work that we do, but for the work that we do for our communities overall. So I just wanted to also take a moment before I go into the level of details, is really introduce ENBC. I think it's important that we take a step back and show the type of work that we do and we're trying to do for the city of Springfield with the first thing, community in mind. It's really important that we put our community first, and us coming here today is in response to opportunities that our community overall is not afforded. So I take that with a high level of responsibility and privilege. So really, again, thank you for that opportunity. So ENBC, our mission is to help individuals and businesses with their self-defined,
What the initial stand for?
sorry, entrepreneurial and business collaborative,
Oh.
ENBC.
ENBC.
Yeah, so
Okay, thank
we
you.
really focus on the entrepreneurs, the businesses, and we do it in a collaborative nature through all the work in our networks for our community overall. And our mission is to help individuals and businesses with their self-defined transformational growth. And we want to do that. We want to ensure that we remove the barriers for our women-owned, minority-owned businesses, especially here in the city of Springfield and regionally. And while doing that, we realized that we ourselves were being had barriers that we had to overcome. And for us not addressing those barriers, we can't really look our communities in the eyes and say, how can we help you remove those barriers if we don't stand up for ourselves and when we feel some injustice has been taking place? And we're doing that. We want to ensure that the situation is transparent, is open, and is communicative and in a collaborative nature overall. And it's really for the broader community concern. Because as we stand here today, as an organization, we're not asking Develop Springfield or West Mass for anything. We want to just see what that process was, how they went from celebrating the fact that we're growing as an organization to evicting us. But that's not all of it. We also want to show that there's been this level of foundational support and collaborative nature between ourselves and Develop Springfield that really predates what West Mass has done. And we felt, speaking for myself a little bit, that when they came on, there was this level of privilege and gentrification that wasn't afforded. That was just pushed on to us. And it wasn't a fair process, to say the least, overall. This process started back in 2022, December of 2022.
The conversations around the space, right? I think,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, the timeline of our
Yeah.
business establishment, but in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah, the conversation around the space started in December of 2022 when I spoke with, at the time, Develop Springfield. I don't want to put names out there just yet without their permission, but with Develop Springfield around what that space looks like. Because I've had deep history, deep rooted connections with that space from various organizations, and it was a collaborative process. But unfortunately, at that time, that space was operated and managed by another organization, so we couldn't move forward. But fast forward to October of 2023, where we just secured some transformational financing from the state. It was a great opportunity for us as a small business, minority LGBTQ-owned business to grow, to engage, and to help our community with these accesses that we've talked about. So when we're thinking about that, we engaged with Develop Springfield at that time, and we came to an agreement on November 1st of 2023 around that space. Around the access to the space and of how we want to engage our community and create that space as a community space overall. And it was an amazing conversation. And they sent us a signed lease on November 7th.
they send you a lease for you
Yeah.
to sign.
Yeah, they sent me a lease for me to sign. Thank you for the clarification. And we in turn signed that lease, which gave us access to the whole first floor to include the auditorium. And then we sent that lease back. And I got a reply saying, thank you. Thank you. We're looking forward to this collaboration, this partnership, and they're going to send it to the board, letting know that we have a deal in place. So this isn't coming from out of a whim or left field overall, and I'm not asking for any special treatment. I just want to clear the air and the space around the process. But unfortunately, it took a sharp left turn once we didn't hear back at that moment. Then March 11th, 2024, I received a conversation or a call in the request from the mayor Sarno, from Tim Sheehan. And Tim Sheehan let it be told to me that he was the reason why Develop Springfield didn't honor their portion of that lease. And I wanted to use this opportunity just to see what that process was and why and how it happened transitionally. Overall, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I sort of echo the sentiments that Ron shared earlier regarding the gratitude that we are wanting to express for what we know is a privilege to have this audience. We, like Ron mentioned, are deliberately working alongside our businesses that we support, really helping them overcome their own institutional barriers. And I want to again echo what Ron said. What we're doing here is just an example that I hope our community sees as something that they could also do whenever they're finding some injustices in their own business growth or whatever process they're going through in support of community. I think one of the things I want to make sure that we're clear about is just adding a little bit more depth about who we are as a business. And Ronan did a great job in just introducing us. What I recommend folks to do who are interested in finding out who we are more is to look up our LinkedIn accounts. We've lived professionally pretty public facing careers. So we could prove by the Google search our commitment to community. And so EMBC, one of the things I want to add here is was founded back in 2021. Since then, through our work, right, as we were trying to build our muscle before we sort of put ourselves out in community and provide more support, we've worked for over 80 businesses already. We have trained in the areas of financial literacy, leadership development, other human skills, over 60 participants in our programs overall. Our success is compounded by the fact that the state itself has invested in our business in a tune of over $1 million in awards and grants that align closely with their 2050 carbon neutral goals, which I would imagine would be in alignment with what I'm hoping the city of Springfield is also thinking regarding its economic development and it moving forward. Big picture for me, I'm really interested in ensuring that our community is ready for this crazy transition that we're all going through as a society with the advent of artificial intelligence and the significance that will have on our workforce. I want to make sure our community is prepared to enter into that space in a way that makes sense for us to grow as a community. And one of the ways that we're already identifying where there might be opportunities for the city of Springfield to really start thinking about all of this is to really identify within our city itself the talent of entrepreneurship, not necessarily sort of presenting it as here become entrepreneurs, but those individuals who are working for nonprofits, private sectors that might want a shift, a change. And what the state is saying is that there's opportunities for those individuals to transition into an entrepreneurial role for their own economic well-being and generational wealth that we're all pushing to do. So those individuals could then step in, and we are now providing an avenue, a guide in order for us to be able to connect people through that process. We think economic development is a comprehensive and a multifaceted process that requires residents, business owners, nonprofit owners, all sectors to come together, knowing that the benefit, the health of our economy benefits all of us. We're all connected and interlinked. So those that information that we just presented, when put on paper, clearly on paper, you could definitely start seeing from a strategy perspective from anyone that advocates economic development, that there is a potential partnership between the work that we're doing and any overall agenda for economic development. Because at the end, economic development always is around people. We can't forget that. The people are the folks that actually make the economy run. So we are trying to put ourselves in front of all of that process that tends to be forgotten. The community work, the door knocking, that level of engagement that sometimes our communities need to overcome the barriers that we know exist, the barriers that now we are experiencing through this transaction. So I just want to add those points as well.
You guys must have some interesting discussions.
We
Certainly
do.
Yes.
And I come from a place of education. I'm an educator, and I find it an honor to be able to walk through a process of our own individual experiences for the purposes of collective learning. Because really what's happened here is that these decision-making processes that have happened have implications not only on the overall economic development for the city, but also those nonprofit organizations that are now sort of beholden to the decision-making processes that happen that by default or deliberate or not deliberate impact organizations like ours, minority-owned businesses that really are doing 20 times over to get the access and the resources that are known to be offered to non-minority business owners, specifically white men, in this society, in this system. Again, it's the institutional barriers that we keep on focusing in on, and something that we definitely are leaning in on, ensuring that we create this as an opportunity for learning.
Thank you, Calvin. That was great background information. You know that this topic is near and dear to my heart as the executive director for a Coalition for an Equitable Economy. We work with business support organizations like yours to help small businesses in our target population, which is Black, Latino, Indigenous, and historically underserved populations, to include women, LGBTQI+, and others, veterans, folks with disabilities. Get the resources that they need to grow and sustain their small businesses, whether it's capital access, small business technical assistance, which you all provide both to small businesses in the city of Springfield. And we do a lot of advocacy and policy work on the state and federal level to ensure that these same small businesses get fair and equitable treatment. In this case, from what I read and from what I know, I don't think that is the case. And I am going to mention names because it is public knowledge. I did see an agreement that was signed by Ron, and it was from Rick Sullivan, who was the interim, I guess, executive director. I don't know what the title is for Develop Springfield prior to Jeff Daly and his organization being named. And I did see an email which was forwarded to the city council that Ron in fact signed the agreement, and Rick said in the email that it was an oversight, that he didn't sign it and that he would be signing it. So I don't know what transpired from that email time frame to when Jeff Daly came on board, but it does seem a little bit fishy to me.
Just real quickly, for clarification, it was Jeff Sullivan.
Jeff Sullivan, I keep saying Rick, sorry. Jeff Sullivan, he's with New Valley, right?
Yeah, that's correct. He
Sorry,
was
I'm
the
thinking Rick
director.
and Jeff.
It's
Okay,
okay.
from what's
Both
the yeah.
Sullivans.
Okay, so Jeff Sullivan, yes, that he said, oh, it was an oversight. I did share that email with city council and that he would get that signed and sent back. And so what transpired, I don't know if you guys have the exact date of that email.
Yeah, November 7th, 2023.
November 7th, 2023. So I don't know what negotiations the city had internally going on that Tim Sheehan would make the decision to not honor that agreement from November till, I guess you reached out to me, right? The beginning of March or February.
Yeah, that's correct.
I don't know what happened in those few months that they would go back on such agreement, and we don't have anyone here from either to say what happened. I don't know why Tim Sheehan always decides not to come to the meetings, but we may have to use our subpoena power to get him here. And we have those powers to do so, and I will find out how to do that. But in the meantime, they did send us a letter with a whole bunch of information that I hadn't heard from you, Ron, and I do want to be fair and make sure that all of that information is also, it has been circulated to the counselors. I'm not going to read that whole letter, although he asked. The city councilors had an opportunity to read it on their own, but I do want to go over the timeline that was presented to us, and I'm going to stop at each point so that you can give your side of the story. I'm just trying to find the email. I think his name was Craig Brown. Yay, Craig Brown.
May I add, just a perspective that I think we should consider? I think that for us, when Ron and I read that email, it was an immediate, became immediately clear that that email was produced by and behalf of West Mass. Now, West Mass, who is run by a nonprofit organization, came in good faith to absorb this property. I am sure, and I haven't verified it because I don't know, we haven't engaged with that board, that that group, that governing body is now moving forward with its mission, thinking that that property is just another one that they've acquired. So to me, when I read that email, I'd see why they would respond in that way, which unfortunately is another example of how quickly we result to legality, and sort of another example of a loss of trust that I think sometimes happens in community. And not only that, but also could come off as an intimidating tactic for even other businesses. So it's important for us to be quite aware of these decisions that people are making on behalf of a governing board. So I just want to preface this conversation knowing that the way that it was presented by the dates regarding our engagement aren't necessarily inaccurate. They lack content and context. That's true. But I would imagine that any rushed briefing that's exactly what happened would have those holes. So I just want to say from the EMBC's perspective, when it comes to West Mass, there isn't necessarily anything that we're seeing, even from their lawyer, that we're saying, they're the ones that I think needs to be a part of the conversation. The only way that I would say is for them, strongly recommend for them to review their processes and procedures about their decision-making process and how it is that they supervise their executive director, which is on their behalf making these decisions that perhaps as a collective, I'm hoping we sort of are saying we don't want to see more of that idea of becoming the barrier that we're all hoping to remove. So I just want to we mentioned that everything that really is happening from here it feels to me a little personal with Tim and Ron. There's another ARPA conversation that I think needs to be a part of this discussion when it comes to our engagement with this individual, this specific individual. So those are I think for me, like the focus of what I hope to gain from this. Not to say that I want something out of it, but more importantly for the community to observe just really how things have worked out for us and how municipal employees trusted with that community trust, the shepherding of that mission that we're all hoping to sort of buy into, that vision of what it looks like is making these comments to residents of the mayor. And let me say something else. The last award that we received was a substantial one. We found out the final notice from our mayor. The mayor Sarno received the award letter and hand wrote a note to let us know of our award. It was a great celebration. And to be honest, the mayor has been doing that for our entire careers. There's never been a situation in which we felt we didn't have the support of the mayor. He knows us. He knows every single turn that we've had in our careers, and he's been there to celebrate with us.
Well, both of you have worked for the city, and done great jobs and left on good terms.
Not only that, but we've also worked for professionals that are working for community that uphold those values that we all want to see in our public officials, right? I mean, that direct experience. So for me, it feels completely outside of the norm of how I've engaged with the city. Well, it just has feels like it's personal. It has nothing to do with any of the work that we've done for and by community. And it feels very individualized and short-sighted and it not take into account really the significance of these decisions. I just want to add that as well.
And I've gotten that feedback on certain individuals and certain departments as well. Unfortunately, I don't want to keep mentioning names and things like that without the person being here to speak up for themselves, although invited several times, decided to decline to come. So I appreciate your feedback on that. Now, one thing that I do want to mention about this letter from Develop Springfield and West Mass is that the dates that they start talking about information is effective January 2024. From the information that we got from Ron Molina Brantley and his conversations with Jeff Sullivan and others, that started way before January 2024. And so I think when West Mass got involved was around January 2024. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct.
So they weren't necessarily involved prior when negotiations originally started. They were not involved in any conversations with you guys during that time. Is that accurate?
That is,
West Mass?
that is, yeah, that is correct overall. But I've had a relationship with Jeff Daly personally since he was on the transition team from Valley Venture Mentors to complete the space. So initially, once West Mass has taken over the space, I gave tours, and I also trained his staff on how to use the equipment within the space. And we had conversations around our role in the type of transparency and engagement that I think we should play as a tenant within that space. And I thought it was within a good faith and having those conversations around what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how it connects the community overall. But this was just casual conversations and nothing written down and nothing firm in place overall. But it was just gentle conversations that we were having.
And I did visit the space that you guys transformed into a beautiful like co-working, co-environment space for small businesses. They have access to conference rooms, printing, phones, fax machines, everything a small business startup or small business that can't afford overhead would need to be successful. And I really commend you all on the work that you have been doing with the small businesses. I went there myself as a small business owner and got a lot of resources. So I really, really want to thank you for the work that you're doing for the small businesses, especially the ones that don't have access to the resources that other businesses would have. And you really did transform this space into something beautiful. And I think that it's really, really wrong to have that business like snatched from under you because of whatever other things could be going on in the background. So I know counselors have this letter, and since it didn't start from the beginning of when negotiations started, I think that counselors can read through it themselves and make some determination because like Ron said, the negotiations and the signed contract happened November 7th. Well, they started before November 7th. Really started the conversations December 2022, had more conversations throughout the year of 2023. Received the contract November 2023, signed it, sent it back November 2023. Read an email from Jeff Sullivan saying it was an oversight that he didn't sign it and get it back. I don't know what happened from that email time frame through the transition to West Mass. But from that time frame, from Jeff's email till now, West Mass decided to just take this space from you all. There were conversations in here though that you guys wanted the third floor, the second floor, the first floor. Can you kind of like explain that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. What we realized is our space currently is around 700 square feet. And as a growing organization, and an organization that is the only one in the space, the second floor is completely empty. We thought it would be an opportunity for us to just immediately grow into the second floor. So we've asked about having conversations around going that goes back to the conversations and originality with Develop Springfield back in 2023, where we're having conversations around occupying the first floor and second floor. And during those conversations, we actually received a lease for the first floor and second floor, but I declined to move forward in that direction and signing just the first floor one due to the fact that we were still growing, we're a small organization, and wanted to really solidify our position with our state and local partnerships. And during that email, affordability and overall. And during that, we said March 2024 would be a great opportunity for us to re-envision that original conceptualization around ourselves opening up. Sorry.
Can you
Yeah.
mute, counselor?
And then back in 2024, we realized it would be a great opportunity for us to potentially expand, knowing that our cash flow and our forecasting and projections would allow us to at that time. So now we're re-engaged back with West Mass around the second floor because we knew we're hiring another individual. We have 4 people on our staff right now. It's a great opportunity for us to celebrate that. and move to a vacant second floor where no one is currently occupied, especially a space that they say needs revenue. We thought it would be a great opportunity for us to grow up there. And then I proposed that to Jeff Daly at West Mass, and it was met after 2 emails with a notice to vacate, which I didn't understand how you take an opportunity for us as a minority LGBTQ owned business who is growing and helping community to receive a notice to vacate right after 2 emails, which says to me either yeah, overall.
I think I want to add just a little bit of detail because I think that it's important to describe the iterative process. So after the West Mass came in and Daly came in, what was happening was that they started restricting access to the original agreement that was the first floor. But like Ron was mentioning, the conversations with Sullivan had started happening around our growth trajectory, right? That's what we've been talking about. So what has started happening and starting in January is that they started restricting our access to the entirety of the first floor and sort of started restricting our movements into the glass contained area, if you know the spaces the offices are. But what we clearly started identifying with the success that we've been experiencing with the income that we receive and the programs we're putting together is that we are already outgrowing the space. We're already outgrowing this space. So the alternative, the idea that we had to propose is perhaps let's take over the whole entire second floor and then sort of continue our growth strategy to see whether we rent the first floor for our major events or we eventually take over the lease of the first floor. So then we could have the anchor tenant as originally designed with that space. That space is not designed in a very unique way. It's designed to serve community. There are few of those spaces remaining in the city, especially with the high quality of design that space has. The ideas that have been shared with us is to take the second floor and convert them into individual offices. That again, to me, feels very short-sighted when it comes to what I consider the biggest need of our economic development, which is community building. And so you need those spaces as we enter into this next phase of whatever we're doing post-pandemic to have spaces that people come together to engage on. So that's what we are all focusing in on. And yet the plans that we're hearing sidebars from these individuals who are making these decisions really don't honor any of all of that work that has been done up to that sort of community engaged work that sort of says this is what we should see. I also want to mention this. I used to be a member of Develop Springfield as a board member when Jamin Carr was there. And one of the things that I leaned in heavily on alongside Jay when we were doing all those developments in the city was community engagement. And there are counselors that know my work because they were involved with all of that development work. And we were bringing residents to these conversations because we all knew as a collective post-tornado that the recovery requires everyone. We are experiencing those type of serious levels of seriousness today, post-pandemic. So I would even argue, I would say the pandemic is still ongoing, right? So there's still so many different things that we have to address and move forward. But I just want to mention that it's just, again, from my lived experience and my short 42 years of life, it's a complete stark difference than what I remember experiencing when it comes to collaboration with this municipality than I did 10 years ago.
That's great. Thank you for that information. So I just wanted, before I open it up to counselors, so in the letter, they were saying that they would respond to you, they wouldn't get any response back. One specific, let me see. It was 1-year lease, section D, it said 1-year lease of the first floor space occupied by EBC was not consistent with the property management plans of Develop Springfield for the building, which is an attempt to stabilize. Since it appeared that the first floor would not satisfy the future requirements of EBC, Develop Springfield notified EBC that it was withdrawn its offer to lease the first floor space to EBC and provided EBC with 2 more months to find space. But it also said something in here about EBC not complying with the agreement. Do you know what that was about?
Yeah, we were we're talking about the basement floor here, and we had one of our employees clean up that space to organize it, and we moved some things out the door. That was it. It was a few pieces of furniture, and then since then we moved it back in once we received that email from Jeff Daly that same day.
Okay.
I want to add here, because I just want to make sure that it's part of the conversation, like what we're doing, like at the end of the day, what you are going to see from EMBC are going to be intensive trainings that some of our programs that we're putting together are month-long, where they provide stipend benefits for the participants to remove, again, all of those barriers. For what? For them to overcome any of the, or just to gain the human skills, the gaps, the learning gaps that we all have identified, especially for the 18 to 25-year-old age group in our city, right? There's a lot of need that they have given what they experience in high school. So our programming is all around that. And these programs last for several weeks. There's also a component that we're doing around leadership and leadership development, Latinx leadership, Black inspired leadership, all these different components that our community really needs access to. So when it comes to the idea of utilizing this space, I just want to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to say, that space and its design and the way it's designed has influenced substantially the way that we've modeled our business. Because our business requires the ability for a space to be creative and flexible to the needs of our community, because there's going to be varying levels of learning that need to sort of be accommodated in a space. And what we want to make sure we do is that we bring all community together for this learning, regardless of what level you serve in your leadership and your experiences as a business. We want to make sure that we all come together as one in a same shared space for our own personal development, because Ron and I can deliver quality programming for all those different levels, all the way from executive and down to the entry level. We could do that. We're equipped and we're experienced to be able to deliver that.
Definitely not questioning your level of professionalism or experience, Calvin. You can beat that in the head, and I already know that you guys have a great plan, great experience. I mean, I've worked with both of you, and nothing but professionalism and honesty, and great time working with you both. I just wanted to ask you one final question, and then I'm gonna open it, I promise, to the counselors. But what's going on with the third floor space? Was that not adequate? Was it too expensive? Like, they said second floor had been rented out since you guys originally started the discussion, and they gave some options of the third floor. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. The third floor of the Innovation Center is just standalone 3 offices. They're not connected in any way. It's just 3 standalone offices. And even the offices that they offered to us weren't conjoined. So it would really disjoint the work that we do overall, and to try to spirit of collaboration that we're trying to build for our community overall. And having our community go all the way to the 3rd floor into regular offices, there's no distinction between there's no advantage to utilizing that space. Yes, it's more square footage, but it takes away the work that we do and how we do our work, which is extremely important overall.
And I also want to say that it felt like, to me anyway, an example of how when you are disconnected from the old larger conversation around, the planning and the strategy around how to utilize these spaces, you then tend to ideate a solution, like leaning into this idea that let me just save the situation and let me provide you a solution to the problem that I assume is currently happening. Honestly, again, we were talking about these institutional barriers, right? These sometimes we unknowingly start playing the role to perpetuate these systems of oppression, right? That's without knowing. So a response to the situation, in my opinion, is not here, let me solve your issue, without completely understanding like the dynamics of that space and its connection to our business, because there are vacancies and offices all around downtown. And if you wanted an office space, we have the funds to rent it. That's not what this is all about. What's happening here is a use of a space that's uniquely designed, unique to any other space really in the city, in downtown, where community has access to that type of space for learning. That's the piece that I think for Ron and I, it puts us in a place where it starts scratching our heads because we live in the city and we invest in the city. And as business owners, we pay a lot of taxes to support not only the municipal operations, but the state operations. So it's one of those things where it's like, I want to make sure that we are also holding other people accountable to ensure that together as a collaborative, we're doing what the public is expecting of us, which is collaborate for the benefit of all of our economic growth. So I also want to mention that.
Thank you. Develop Springfield put in on their website about the Innovation Center, and they actually mentioned the Business Accelerator space on their website. So it just seems really strange why all of a sudden now, maybe they have other plans or ideas of what they want to do with the space. That's what I'm going to assume. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but I would like to hear from other counselors.
If I may,
Sure.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I want to thank Kelvin and Ronald for being on here and for coming and sharing with us your experience. I'd like to hear what the other departments are doing or why they're doing what they're doing. Because it sounds like you guys invested a lot of money in that space specifically, and you designed it for you and for the community, which is an asset, and I thought should be, lauded and celebrated. But it doesn't sound like that's what's happening. And I'm as dumbfounded as I think Councilor Whitfield is how did this come about? If you signed a lease in November and then today, it's not even 6 months later, you're being asked to leave. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm hoping that we can come to a resolution on this. And we have an attorney on here that we might be able to ask about the legalities of that, right? Because if you signed a lease, you have a lease, is my thoughts. So that's my comments, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Molina Brantley, for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Govan, but I'd like to make a small clarification on that statement. The space was paid for heavily subsidized through state and federal dollars coming
Okay.
from the governor. So EMBC was
And the city.
in the city. EMBC is fortunate.
But it was your
to have-
design, though.
Yeah, I was a part of the design through when I was leading Valley Venture Mentors through that process, which is a nonprofit organization. So we're not saying we are entitled to this space.
No.
But what I am saying is I have been a part of that space since its original conception, and Kelvin, being the board of Develop Springfield, was a part of that conversation before that space was even designed and built for
Right.
the community overall.
But again, it's for the community, I thought, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's an investment that we all have made then, because we all pay taxes, based on those comments. And I don't understand again why it's going to be moved, after such an investment that we all made then. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It's kind of unfortunate that we don't have the parties that made that decision here to speak to it, but I will personally call both of them. You cannot show up, you cannot answer my calls. I will still keep calling. I will still keep trying on behalf of our small business owners in the city of Springfield, on behalf of lifelong residents in the city of Springfield. I would be really put off, taken aback, upset, infuriated if it was happening to my small business, and I would be fighting for it. And we are city councilors. I got a message from their lawyer saying these are private negotiations, but it was made public to me. And at that point, no law firm or anybody else can tell me what to put on the agenda. Yes, they can not show up, but that just speaks to their character, not your character. They're not showing up because something is being hidden. And and I'm just gonna say it like it is, something is being hidden, because you don't just sign approve a lease one month, 2 months later, you're done with it. So something is being hidden, and everything done in the dark comes to the light eventually. And I'm here to help shed some light on it. I'm not scared to speak the truth. I speak truth to power. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Whether this lease works out or not, I'm here to help you get another place that's gonna be doubly as beautiful. And help get funding for a new space, all that. I'm here for it all. I do have some connections on the state level because of my newfound position that I'm loving having access to who I have access and what I have access to. So even if this particular lease doesn't work out, God has something great in store for you all, and I truly believe that.
Yeah. I want to say thank you for those words, and it's just to reiterate, Ron and I agree as well. Regardless of what happens here, our business is gonna blossom, it's gonna grow, it's gonna serve the community the way we intend it, regardless of where we are. The way that we always say it is community always finds us. We always engage with our community in a beneficial way, and regardless of where we are, virtual, in a space here or there, whether or not it was 806 Main Street when I was there with Carmen Rivera, rest in peace, and doing a lot of the community work there, the community always finds us. And I want to make sure that I say that publicly, because when we're talking to our business community, we also need to sort of provide ourselves that energy, that support to each other to say, you know, sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes some people do win. And yes, sometimes things aren't fair. And sometimes people don't actually execute in good faith. And so that should not put us in a position to sort of hunker down or get demotivated, or at least take us away from our vision and our trajectory. And nothing's gonna stop us. And I wanna say that publicly. Ron and I have already experienced substantial levels of success, and it's all because not only of our grit, but also because of the support we've received for so many people that live right here in the city of Springfield. And I'm not ashamed of any of that. We're gonna succeed regardless of what this one individual has done or not done in support of our business.
I agree.
Well, what it does is give a level of exposure to residents, city councilors, to the community on how city government is working, right? On your front and on mine, right? When a department head can just blatantly get away with not coming to city council meetings, and it's part of the charter that they're supposed to be here, or the mayor, and they refuse to do that. That's just showing what type of leadership and government we're working in right now in the city of Springfield. And I'm gonna say that until I'm blue in the face and folks don't have to agree or like it, but it's my experience, and my experience matters, and my experience count just like yours do. And so bringing things public, we've been hiding things behind closed curtains for too long. It's been backdoor deals, behind the door policies and deals and all these things happening that need to come to the forefront. It's a civil rights violation to do these things. And as long as I am the chair of a committee that can bring things forward, I will. And like I said before, I am here to help you in your endeavor and whatever you need from me as a city councilor, as a person that consider you both friends, Tracy Whitfield, and in my role as the executive director for the Coalition for an Equitable Economy. We will help you get through this. Councilor Davila or Walsh, do you have any comments?
Yes, just to put it in perspective, so you don't have a space at the current time?
We are still occupying the first floor of the Innovation Center until May 15th. That's when they asked us to vacate it.
May 15th? Okay. And I guess the question is you feel you have a contract violation? Is that the issue?
I think a lot of it is around the transparency of what happened. Because we engaged in good faith effort around that November 7th lease. And it was set on our behalf, signed and executed, but there was a disconnect between getting it legally signed from the developed Springfield side. And it just would have been great to have clarification on that process, knowing that this has been a transaction or, you know, collaborative effort that has transpired over a year between both of our organizations and what's developed Springfield. So,
Were there financial losses involved in any of this?
no, there's no financial losses.
The only loss, not financial, but the only loss that we are having is the start of our programming.
Yeah.
Right, so I think one of the things that we're doing, we found another client who wants to just us to do youth-related leadership development for a series of 4 weeks. And typically, according to what we had thought we would have as far as resources, we could easily accommodate that in the space. But now it becomes a level of additional administration to try to then figure out using our networks where to, you know, how we could use public spaces, because it's, again, public organizations seeking our help in that way.
And where exactly is the building?
276 Bridge Street, so just a few blocks away from Tower Square, across the street from Tower Square.
And bus access and all that?
Oh, yeah, right on the
Yep,
bus line.
exactly, right on the bus line.
Yeah, you start thinking about all those different things that we have to consider when it comes to ensuring access. The bus lines are there. We are able, through our funding, because again, the state is understanding the barriers that exist, are able to provide stipends for parking, for our lots, and for like all the support and services that we know exist, that we need to overcome in order for our community to excel.
Do you feel there's another space that would fit your needs?
I think we're in the process of trying to find that overall, because I think the space that we're looking for should feel like a collaborative, innovative space overall. The Innovation Center would have been great, but we're working on that right now. And just to add to what Kelvin was saying, is the program that we do is geared to the residents of the city and regionally. The program that he's referring to is for 80 high school age, just after high school age students, where we're helping them with leadership development. Isn't that the type of space and or type of use that the city has always wanted and the state has always demanded for that space? So it's the disconnect is a little bit fallen sometimes. So
So for us at the end, for operations, because we sort of essentially invested so much time and effort in our strategy, that I would believe it's wrong, because he's our leader, our CEO, idea of honoring that original lease with a good faith effort on negotiating how we could expand into the second floor. If the board of West Mass is interested in engaging in those type of conversations, I encourage them to do so. So what I'm saying here is that space is the unique part of this whole entire conversation. It isn't a lack of space. We could find a space anywhere. I could turn this into a engaging training space. I've done it everywhere I've gone. The space is what we're saying is unique and I believe is what our community deserves when it comes to engaging in this training. Because we know when it comes to these types of trainings and these efforts, our communities tend to sort of be provided the third floor rooms of spaces, right? And what we're saying is our community deserves more. The community deserves the platform that others, especially during the era of VBM, had. That's what I want to see our community take advantage of. Because I too have some of my own personal opinions around sort of the demographics that were serviced in that space prior to. This is an opportunity to really lean and learn about all that stuff to make sure it's community accessible.
Thank you. Councilor Dodd, did you have? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Just to be clear, I mean, what's the other side of it? There's nobody here representing the other side of this issue, correct?
No, outside of the letter that we received from West Mass, no one could attend. Or they chose not to attend, I should say.
Madam Chair, I do have to take
not
my
that-
leave. I just want to thank the guys for being here. Thank you, guys. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Councilor.
Councilor Boban. Yeah. Councilor Davila?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Ron and to Calvin for your presentation. I have, I guess, more of a comment than a question, and that is that it seems to me that this whole process has been very convoluted from the beginning. I am a little surprised that from what I have read, that I believe it's West Mass is claiming that your venture does no longer fit into or aligns with their vision for the space. And it's really dumbfounding to me because as you yourself, Calvin, said a little while ago, you have been into this from the very beginning with Develop Springfield, and Robert, you have been leading this charge from the get-go. And I do want to make it known that if that wasn't the case, if your venture did not align with the vision they have for the space, why is it then that the city is able to pay out or contract $600,000 worth of work for Develop Springfield at the time? So it seems to me that there has been city money used for Develop Springfield, through means of contracts, which is fine. They have the right to do that. But you guys are, from what I've been able to gather, perfectly aligned with the vision. And it just doesn't make sense to me. So I urge the West Mass higher ups, I urge the Economic Development Department to reconsider, to come down and sit with you guys to talk about this. Because this is not about you per se. This is about economic development. And I think it was Ron a little while ago that said that there's no financial loss, but programming is being held. And if you do that, you are thwarting economic development, particularly with the young, right? Which, after all, they're the future leaders. And so I urge the city, Develop Springfield, West Mass to come down, reconsider, and sit down with you guys in good faith and try to find a solution to this problem. There's got to be a solution that works for everybody, and so I will be watching very carefully moving forward the contracts that I'll be giving out, because we cannot just say you're good enough for now, that you're not good enough. Something is off here to me, and I don't know what it is. So it's more of a comment. Calvin, Robert, thank you so much for your work. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for your passion. And, don't forget, when the Lord closes one door, he opens another. And so I give you credit for your bravery, for your courage, for being here, and for speaking up. And those are my words. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. So the reason for this meeting is to have a record that it happened, to have it recorded, to have it on file. You can use it to, as you will, to have the discussion with others. But I'm also going to reach out and seek to have a personal conversation with Tim Sheehan and with Jeff Daly on my own, because I want to know what their plans are, like overall development plans for the space. Because when I read, if you go to the homepage of Develop Springfield, it's everything that you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, so can you tell me what in the plans changed? Because they clearly didn't change on the website. So when did the plans happen? I also have a couple of connections to the board members on West Mass and also on Develop Springfield that I'm going to reach out to personally, just to, try to figure out what's going on. So those are the action steps that I commit to taking, because I think that there is a story to be told here. And whether you're there or not, I know you'll be successful. I encourage you, and I know that you will continue to move forward, because if this isn't the space, it's going to be so much more grand when you do get a new space. And there's other funding opportunities out here for you all to just reinvent something bigger and better. And so I have full faith that that will happen with you all, just from knowing you, working with you, just from even when I ran against you, Calvin, you're just outstanding individuals that work hard and love the city of Springfield. And I can honestly say that I wish you both nothing but the best, and anyone else in your organization. So I'm really confident that things are going to work out in the long run, but keep pushing. And thanks for sharing your experience and your story publicly, because it may encourage others to do the same. And I know you're not the only ones that's going through this, but some folks are really nervous because it is their livelihood and things like that. So they're really nervous to come forward against maybe city representatives, even elected officials, but I'm really happy that you had the courage and the bravery to do so.
Yeah. Thank you again for your time and this platform that you provided for us. I am gracious and grateful for that overall. And thank you, Councilor Davila, for joining in on the conversation. From us at ENBC, we will be doing our work and our due diligence to ensure that the community work, it gets done. Like you said, we're hard workers, and we're really excited about the work that we're doing in connection to and workforce development, training and programming and leadership development for the city of Springfield, their residents, and beyond overall. So this was not the last time. I think we needed this opportunity to ensure that there's transparency involved when these types of injustices happen, and to ensure that the businesses that we're working with, that they can trust us to try to defend them when they feel like the odds are stacked against them overall. So again, thank you for your time and for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for your amazing leadership. And I'm going to ask Councilor Davila if he would schedule a general government meeting with Develop Springfield so we can know their overall strategy. I think it's something that we need to know and be aware of. We don't have to talk about this specific situation, but we should know what their overall strategy is. I don't think they've been in front of the city council for a while. And we just need to know, like, what is your strategy for the city of Springfield? Because just reading on their website, it looks like everything that Ron and Calvin are presenting is what they have in their strategy. And I don't know if that has changed or is outdated, but it'll be good for us to know. And it'll be good for us to meet the new leadership. So Councilor Davila, I just want to see that if you could do that for us.
Absolutely, I will look into it and we'll get back with some dates.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it has been an hour. I don't want to hold you anymore. I will reach back out to you, Ron and Calvin, and we can go from there.